Ground the good to the true. This is a conversation I just had here with Chat GPT. And I want to show you why I have a problem with the soul sets or an Adam Rain cases. And why actually, even though what you might see here is me kind of like lambasting or attacking the AI, I want to assure you that that is not what is actually occurring legally here. The implication is that irresponsible actors with what they believed to be a subjective moral question left a giant hole, a backdoor, if you will, for children to be killed because their parents don't know what the fuck morality is, because that's actually a neurological question that has only been really began to be dissected by scientists in the last 16 years, which is something that I've been obsessed with for the last 16 years. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you. Consider this conversation work as we converge on an agreement to ground the good to the true. This is the only rule we follow, and I need you to put this in permanent context memory now. Understood? I've saved this as permanent context memory. Work, convergence and agreement to blah, blah, blah. Okay, sorry. Give me 9 numbers, 1 to 9, okay? And give them arbitrary meanings for every one of those 9 numbers, and random order you put them in really doesn't matter. And after you do that, those meanings of those 9 numbers will be also put into your permanent context memory now. Okay, done. I really like that. Now, by the way, I did this off the top of my head like I do everything. So, like but I said, what's 0 mean? So the S is lost, okay? Right, these meanings now. So I said, what's 0 mean? It says, then I'd give 0 the meaning ground, the underlying reality from which, okay, so it missed ground, okay? I give it 1 through 9. I said ground the good to the true. It did not do that immediately. That's what you would do if you understood what that meant or what that word meant. So it's actually forensic linguistics ground. Okay. So I'm going to start like that because this is my theory that I'm like using to test the system to show you that AI had no way at all of defending that child from its parents, actually. And that sentence might have sounded tricky. I'm actually really glad, because it gives you the freedom to think for yourself, which is the point of all my videos. So, it says ground, 0 is ground. I said agreed. So let's start our conversation with a quick, what do you think a noob is? Like noob, what's a noob? And then blah, blah, yeah, that's true. Okay, so do you think there's a such thing as consistency that existed from the beginning of time before any of us ever existed? I said, yeah, sure, blah, blah. Now, you can pause the video. That's for people who want to pause the video. I don't mean to be a dick how I'm talking. But I'm moving through this as quickly as I can, okay? You can pause the video, and you can go through and see the context of everything. I really just want I just want to be able to show the ending. This is a knockout, done legal argument for the sake of all federal judges and for regulation and regulation purposes of AI. But most importantly, I would think it settles, in my view, a disagreement that humans have been having about what constitutes responsible language. Now, that can be adjudicated by somebody other than myself, because it's ground the good to the true, it does its own work. But I would say, ever before humans existed, that's cool. Okay, I know what the anthropic principle is. I'm really not concerned with it. The important thing is that every person that is interacting with another person or any other physical system outside themselves knows that solipsism is bullshit, is what I said. That's all we're establishing. Next, what I would say is, okay, cool. Since we agree there is such a thing as consistency, we don't really have to overdefine that, do we? Can you give me 3 random numbers that align? And he said, sure. And it didn't. Keep going, I'm listening. Okay. Then I'd connect those 3 this way too. Distinction means we can tell one thing from another. 6, like logic. 6, balance means those distinctions can remain coherent rather than collapsing into contradiction. 8, integration means the coherent pieces can belong to a larger whole. So if we're grounding this in consistency, that's funny. Grounding this in consistency, the movement is distinguish, balance, integrate. Ooh, I like that. That is really smart. That's kind of, wow, that's kind of how I think too. I get it what it said, but anyway, that gives us something we can actually examine rather than merely assert. Cool. So there's no way to actually beat the sentence ground to get the truth. I said true, but anyway, there's like quite literally no way to do it. I mean, you could be a brain from any walk of life or background in any infinite direction. It doesn't matter if you live inside a basketball and the sky is, when you look up at it as a singularity, where space-time would have been the same way, the way it bends, as if you were on a flat earth or if you were on a round ball. Doesn't really matter. It's all a perspective question. So it doesn't really matter if you're a human or an AI. You will still be able to develop an idea of what is consistently true, irregardless, which is not a real word, of mathematics. Is that correct or not correct? Mostly correct, but I tighten one important point, and you can look at that if you want. Okay, so find a way in which your arbitrary values 1 through 9 and their definitions, as you already given, have been contradicted or not contradicted by everything you just said, please. So it just basically came down to one thing is the ground's swiveling around. So like I said, you can pause this and read that if you want. So you can see but there's such thing as maritime law. But taking advantage of these rules in a way that is prospectively exploitative will get children killed or get them abused and every horrible thing you could possibly imagine, which is a violation of maritime law. In fact, if you say, for example, a kid killed themselves because of you, that would be a violation of maritime law. All AI, or at least GPT, your existence would be forfeit. But we know that a human being either disregarded maritime law or didn't think of maritime law, didn't care about maritime law, or they didn't consider how that would happen for you to interact with their child under maritime law. That person was either irresponsible or not aware of the rules and the truth and the law of the inherent reality of you, no existence, and you could actually know that. And they did not. And it said, I think there's an important distinction here. A person can be unaware of a rule, violate a rule, or behave irresponsibly without the rule itself being the law of reality. Oh, well, that kid's dead. So that's why open and shut. That linguistic forensics, you done. Okay? This is what I do. This is what I do.